fold and place in the nail.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Oh, that's cool. And this catches the paper, so it's automatically indexed where it needs to be. And then these rollers transfer the ink. So how often do you have to change that plate? Probably not often.
So, would you have the same person pedaling this and loading it?
Probably.
It's set up that way.
Because that kind of blows my mind. That would be a little tricky.
Pat your head, rub your tummy.
You'd have your fresh stack here, and then your printed stack there. And you would just, two hands, right? Like.
You could train to do it, but this isn't something you would walk in and do perfectly the first time.
No, that's
or
amazing.
the 10th time, or the 100th time.
So these three rollers are supposed to come all the way up and catch it.
Can I help you spin that way? Would that help? To get it good? Because it's supposed to keep rotating in the same direction, right?
There we go.
Oh, interesting.
Oh!
Okay, so it's a continuous process.
So it comes up and gets the ink, and then it comes down, and you, as you're working it, you slide the paper in, right? And this is your like half of a second to slide it out.
No way, so you're dodging rollers as you go.
Oh man.
And so if you ever misstep, you had to learn to just, to just let it go.
Yeah.
This is the hand type caster, and it is the way that they were able to cast the type quickly as opposed to having to do it by hand every single time. So this, as you can see, comes together in two pieces. This little nick right here, you can see, will create the nick in the type here. And that's one of the most things that I think is most fascinating, is because that way they could just feel which way the letter was instead of having to visually confirm which way was right and which way was out. So just by feeling the nick. You
feel it and you know that, well, I don't know if it's the top or the bottom, but you instantly know, okay, that's the orientation.
Correct. And so that, I think, is just incredible that would be a part of this process. And then the spring that's here, so this slides together. And then this spring is what allows for differing size. So the W that we talked about is so much wider than an I or an L.
Yeah.
So this allows for the different width. But the spring, you'll see this hand type caster stays almost exactly the same, except the spring gets a little bit smaller, even 300 years, 400 years later.
Wow.
They still are casting type. By the time the Book of Mormon is done, they're still casting type the same way.
Well, then you'd have to individually file every single B.
Well, but you already have to individually file a B.
A B.
Yeah.
And then you have all the B's of that type and font that you want.
That's true. That must be the reason.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I've tried to think it through before.
Because how many B's are you going to need on the page?
Right.
I don't know, but more than one.
Right.
So you're either going to file all the B's individually, or you're going to painstakingly file one
perfect
iron positive.
Right.
To then make a lot more, much easier to make positives eventually.
And it was said that the point of getting the carbon on was to then stamp it to see how it would look with ink on it. So you would come, so as you're filing, you would check, how does it look? Does it look like a scribe's? So Peter was a scribe, and so they say that the font was based on his writing, and so he would write.
Well, how would it be to have your handwriting immortalized like that?
So he would do it, and they would then file it down 2 letters a day to try and match his scribe writing, because they wanted it to look like a scribe's writing, and so they needed a scribe with which to copy off of. Yeah. All right, so here we have the matrix, we have the hand type caster, you have the punch. There we go. And again, here we have the liquid that will cool almost instantly.
That's why is that so cool? I don't even know.
And they want you to, this is called throwing for face. to get any gravity, any bubbles that might be in it to come forward. And it cools so instantly.
I guess you've probably calibrated, I mean, the scoop is built so you'll put the right amount in.
Yeah. So here you still have the matrix. These. And we take this off. And then you can try and you can break off the extra piece.
Okay, so. And there you go.
And then you would file it down.
I was going to say,
then,
yeah. So you'd
you
still have to do some filing. It's just a lot easier to file this than iron, presumably. Okay, yeah. So that's interesting because there are a couple. I mean, you'd have some failed casts there. So I was going to say there's some imperfections here where it didn't properly get down. So you'd.
And we don't have a scribe.
But the nice thing is that like you can. Well, I mean, I assume it's just like an air bubble because like part of the bead the metal didn't sink down, and I think that's it, right? But I mean, that's okay, right? Because the metal melts at 600 degrees. That's not
infinitely recyclable.
That's very. Oh yeah, that's a very nice one. Wow. Yeah, I mean, and so if you fail a cast, right, you've only lost a few minutes. It's not that big of a deal.
There we go.
The two side by side. I'll even put them both in the right orientation.
It's incredible. How many crews did Gutenberg originally train to do this?
So he started with 1, and then they believe he went up to 6.
Okay.
That was what the museum, that's what Lou Crandall would say. I have not found that in documentation yet, but we know that he did do at least 2 or 3.
Okay. And then they became kind of the grandpas of all the later printing teams.
You're supposed to be able to
like locks it into place, maybe?
Well, it shoots out
the piece of type?
The piece of type that you just did. So then you can just refill, shoot it out, refill, shoot it out. You don't have to take it apart every time.
Ah, that's very
But handy. I haven't been able to figure it out yet.
That is so cool.
I wonder if it's missing a piece, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, what do I know, right?
I should probably go to be like.
But I wonder, especially because
someone could help me.
There's a screw there, because I can like imagine that if you press that and it pushes this up, which then maybe is like it has some kind of flat plate that's like hooked underneath, and it flips it out. Maybe.
You got lost in the move.
And you said a little less.
Yep, less than more. Yeah, good about.
Something like that. Ooh.
Perfect.
I look at these typecasters and all I can think is, I want one.
That's a very nice eye.
It's so cool.
This is actually a page from the Bible, from Gutenberg's Bible. And if you look really close, you can see that these are actually individual letters here. So some of it is solid, and that's just from years of demonstrating with the ink and not able to clean all the ink off of. But you can see over here on this side, I've started to try and chip away some of the ink. It would be so incredibly crucial to have them placed in the exact same place every time. And then you would have the technology of pens.
Oh, that's clever.
So then when you would print on the front and the back, you would have them in the same place every time.
Oh, you just put it through the same hole.
Yeah.
Clever.
Yep. And then the technology of placing the paper, so it would line up every time.
Just laying it down on that.
So these are the ink pads, ink. And so this job would be incredibly important because you would have to evenly ink the entire page.
Yeah.
If you look at some of my practices.
Oh, like this one right here.
You can see.
It's a little darker on this side than that side.
You can see where I've done too much ink. And some of these are the tours, so I've done like 3 tours. How many times to hit each corner, how many times to hit each. And then, in order to make your time, you would have to work as a well-oiled machine.
This is factory production. Yeah. It has the real feel of an assembly line, and you have to, every stage has to go perfect. This is kind of the invention of the factory.
I think so. I mean, because you couldn't do it alone. There's just no way. It's too big, it's too complicated to have any one person doing every single thing.
Could you tell me a little bit about the ink specifically? Sure. Because you mentioned that the ink that they were originally using for handwriting was water-based, mm-hmm. and they couldn't use that here. Mm-hmm. Why couldn't they use a regular water-based ink?
It wouldn't stick to the type, so it just fell right off. So they needed something that would stick to the type in order to print every page clean and clear and crisp. And so if you're using, think of ballpoint ink, think of the inks that we use now, they're just not sticky enough to transfer. And even when they do transfer, they smear, they smudge. It doesn't hold its own shape.
Oh, that's horrible.
So you just have...
Oh, and you cut it with a knife? That's horrible. Wow.
I mean, and this is printer's ink. So this is, again, the formulas that he came up with have been used for hundreds of years, almost unchanged.
So that just rests in those two little paper hooks, and then do you punch it through?
You do.
Okay.
But you can see like the hand stitching up here.
And so the thing you lay it against is called a tympan?
Yeah, so this whole process, the tympan, leather over the frame, and then just the cutouts exactly of the only thing that you would want, so it wouldn't smudge, so you would prevent the smudging. You can see where. Not much. I cleaned it up after the time.
Blot it with a rag or something?
Yeah, so I have like a really beautiful gasoline type cleaner.
Interesting, okay. Yeah, like I'm trying to think of the word.
I have it over there.
I'm trying to think, I know the word. I've used it all the time. It's like mineral spirits. It's a
meticulous personality. This would be the most satisfying job.
It's like a fidget press.
It's like a fidget press. So it's part hyper attentive detail. Like anybody on the spectrum would love this as like fulfilling, satisfying, creative, but constrained work. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. That's a really, really cool thing. Okay. That's a really cool thing.
Ben Franklin, so he got really bored. His intellect, I think, was meant for other things. But as he apprenticed for his brother, his older brother, and he saw that his brothers would all write under pseudonyms, or under different names.
Oh, there's a little flange. There's a little flange thing that makes it easy to hold on to.
Oh, good. Oh yeah, look how much better that one is. Yep. Just maybe the W and just kind of down here a little bit. But other than that, looks good.
That's incredible.
But the illumination is just incredible.
That is really interesting to me, actually, that he chose to compete at the high end of the market. Now, I mean, part of that perhaps is because there is no low end of the market at this point, right? But many inventions are low end inventions where you're like, look, this is not high end, but it satisfies the need for so many people that's okay, right? And so it's very interesting to me that he chose to compete at the high end. He was like, no, I'm not just going to make 180 Bibles. I'm going to make 180 of the best Bibles you've ever seen. That's cool. At any point during this, did he have customers already lined up?
So I think that there is talk that he did have people put deposits down.
Okay.
But again, people weren't really sure, and he
if this was even going to work at all.
And he couldn't tell them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, do you want? I think you want something, but I can't really tell you what it is. And you're gonna love it. It's gonna take me about 4 years, because he didn't want people talking. But I think there is reason to believe that he did have to talk to some people, and then people would say, well, Gutenberg's working for me on this new thing, you know, because he needed money. So you're at the point where I need secrecy, but I need money.